welcome. This is the Centrex Software Business Finance Training number 2. By now, you should have a really nice looking workflow, a color-coded workflow for yourself that you've thought quite a bit about with your spouse or your partner or your team. If we jump into the Contacts tab and we jump into Workflow, and we look at the business loan file type here, you guys should have a workflow that looks very similar to this. If it's too far off of the out-of-the-box workflow we've given you, I think that's a tall tale sign that you've either made it a bit too complex or you haven't stuck to the best practices of making stages and statuses actual statuses versus tasks. So in training 1, you should have built a nice looking workflow, reviewed that workflow with your team or your partners to make sure it's something you really like, and also have reviewed that workflow with your support rep here at Centrex Software. Okay, so you should have a nice looking workflow. What we're going to be doing in this training today is we're going to be mapping our contact statuses, which are what you see right here, to our advanced statuses. So in our software, we have contact statuses and we have advanced statuses. We're going to map them together so that when you change the status of an advance, it'll change the contact with it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and jump into the Advances tab here, and then we're going to go ahead and jump into Advanced Settings. In Advanced Settings, you'll notice that there are some out-of-the-box statuses that are given to you within Centrex Software for advances. Okay, these are out-of-the-box hard-coded advanced statuses. We can choose to use some of these statuses, or we can choose not to use some of these statuses, and we can create some of our own custom statuses as well. So if you look back at your workflow, if we jump back to the Contacts tab, and we jump back into Workflow, and we filter on the business loan file type, you'll notice that there are some statuses that we have in here, like in repayment, paid in full, defaulted, that are already out of the box in the system for advanced statuses. So if we jump back into advances here and we go to advanced settings, again, you'll notice we've got stuff like in repayment, paid in full, and defaulted. So we're going to use some of the advanced statuses out of the box, but most of the statuses that we've created, especially under the opportunity stage, we need to create custom statuses for. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that together. You'll do this yourself in the software as well. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time here mapping over each one of these. Each time you add a status, you need to click on Save Settings, and then another box will drop down for you guys to use. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my second status here, which is funder reviewing file. We'll go ahead and click on Save Settings. And then the next status, we have negotiating with funder. So we're going to go ahead and pull that status in as well, negotiating with funder, Save Settings. The next status is merchant reviewing offer. We're going to go ahead and pull in merchant reviewing offer, and we're going to go ahead and click on Save Settings. And again, keep in mind, if you're more of a funder or you're a syndication partner or a broker, your statuses may be a little bit different, but nevertheless, you have to take these steps anyway to save your custom advanced statuses in the software. Okay, so now we're going to pull in merchant reviewing contracts. Let's go ahead and pull that one in. We'll go ahead and click on Save Settings. We've got maybe 4 or 5 more here. The next one is contract signed, final steps. We'll go ahead and click on Save Settings. Next, we're going to go ahead and look at funded. I'm going to go ahead and put funded in here, and we're going to click on Save Settings. We've got one called in collections. So we're going to go ahead and pull in the in collections status. So we've got in collections, so we're going to go ahead and click on Save Settings. We've got one called in legal. We're going to go ahead and pull in legal here, Save Settings. And then we've got lender declined. We'll go ahead and pull in lender declined, Save Settings. And then last but not least, we've got borrower declined. Okay, there's no reason to map over every single one of your contact statuses into advanced statuses, because you're really not going to create an advance opportunity in the software until you have a signed application from a borrower. So let me show you what I mean by that. If I come into the Contacts tab and I click on Workflow and I jump back into our business loan workflow here, you'll notice we've got this stage called lead and all these statuses in the stage lead: warm lead, cold lead, first through sixth attempt, merchant reviewing application. If you've noticed, we didn't add any of these statuses into the advanced statuses because, again, you're not really going to create an advanced opportunity until you have a signed application from a borrower or an ISO or a broker has sent you a full package. Okay, so no reason to recreate these statuses and advances, only from opportunity down. Okay, so again, if we go back into the Advances tab and we click on Advanced Settings, you'll notice here that only the statuses from the opportunity on, we've created some custom statuses for. There's no reason to create custom advanced statuses for in repayment or paid in full and defaulted because they're already out of the box right here. Okay, so once we have all of our custom statuses built in, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to map our advanced statuses to our contact statuses in the software. So again, anytime you change the status of an advance, it's going to change the status of the contact with it. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with in document collection. We're going to go ahead and drop this down and we're going to find in document collection. I will scroll down here and I will find in document collection here. Okay, funder reviewing file. Funder reviewing file. We're going to map that together. Negotiating with lender. Negotiating with funder. Merchant reviewing offer. Let's see here. Merchant reviewing offer. Right here. Offer accepted, preparing contracts. Offer accepted, preparing contracts. Merchant reviewing contracts. Merchant reviewing contracts. Contract signed, final steps. There we go. And then we're going to do funded. So we're going to find funded. There's funded. We're going to find in collections. There's in collections. We're going to find in legal. There's in legal. We're going to find lender declined. We're going to find borrower declined. I think it's called merchant decline. Okay. And then as we scroll up here, we're going to find a few more. We're not going to use the pricing status, so we'll leave that blank. We're not going to use the underwriting status, so we're going to leave that blank. We're not going to use the approved status, so we're going to leave that blank. Let's go ahead and find in repayment. There's in repayment. Let's go ahead and find paid in full. There's paid in full. Let's go ahead and find defaulted. There's defaulted. And then we're not going to use declined because we already did borrower declined and lender declined down here at the bottom. Okay, we're not going to use returned. We're not going to use started, but we are going to use write-off. So we're going to find the write-off one, and there's write-off. Okay, beautiful. So we've mapped all of the advanced statuses we want to use to our contact statuses, and we're going to go ahead and click on Save Settings. Okay, so now we have all those mapped together. Now over here on the far right, we've got advanced started and agreement out. Okay, so what this setting essentially is asking us is when we start a brand new advance opportunity, what status do you want the advance to be in? Okay, so normally if we wait until we have a signed application back from a borrower, then we create the advance opportunity. When you create the advance opportunity, what advance status do you want that merchant to automatically be in? If you're a broker, what I normally do is I make it in document collection. Because if you have a signed application back from a borrower and then you go create a new advance opportunity, the next status is going to be in document collection because the next thing you need to go do is now start collecting documents. Okay? If you're more of a funder and you're funding deals and you're working with ISOs, okay, advanced started, I would say new submission. We don't have new submission in here, but let's assume we had new submission in here, and you can click on new submission. Okay, so for now, we'll do in document collection. And then agreements out, I would say merchant reviewing contracts. Okay, so anytime you have an agreement out to a merchant, I would say merchant reviewing contracts, and we can go ahead and click on Save Settings. Okay, beautiful. So we've created our custom advanced statuses. We've mapped our advanced statuses to our contact statuses. We've told the system what status we want the advance to be when we create a brand new advance, and we've told the system what advance status for agreement out. Let's go ahead and keep going. Down here at the bottom now, we have something called our pipeline. Okay, so the pipeline essentially is going to show you all the different files you have in that advanced status. It's totally up to you how you want to create this pipeline. You don't have to have every single status in there if you don't want to. It's completely up to you on what you want to see and what you don't want to see. We'll create a bit of a small one here just to give you an example. What I like to do is I like to do one called all, so that I can see an all pipeline and I can see every single one of my deals, which means I'm going to come in here and add every single one of those statuses. Even if we don't use the status, it's okay. You can come in here and you can drag and drop these up and down, and you can use each one of these statuses, okay? So let's go ahead and pull in every single one of these statuses for now. We'll pull in declined, we'll pull in returned, we'll pull in started, we'll pull in write-off, we're going to pull an in-document collection, we're going to pull funder reviewing file, we're going to pull in each one of these. So the nice part about the settings section here is once this is kind of set, you really never have to touch it again. Okay, so we'll pull in contract signed, we'll pull in funded, we'll pull in collections, we'll pull in legal, we'll pull in lender decline, and last but not least, we'll pull in borrower decline. Okay, now the next one we have was in document collection, correct? And then the only one we want to see here for in document collection is in document collection. The next one was merchant reviewing offer, or I'm sorry, it was not merchant reviewing offer. I believe it was funder reviewing file. Okay, and if you've misspelled something, it's got spell check here. Okay, so funder reviewing file, and then we're going to come down here and we're going to find funder reviewing file. The next one is negotiating with funder, and we're going to go ahead and find negotiating with funder. Okay, the next one's merchant reviewing offer. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put in merchant reviewing offer. Merchant reviewing offer, and I'm going to find the status of merchant reviewing offer. Okay, and then we'll do one more. The next one is offer accepted preparing contracts. Okay, we're going to go ahead and put in offer accepted preparing contracts. We're going to find offer accepted preparing contracts. And you'll notice here there's no more options. In order to get more options, you have to click on Save Settings. So if I click on Save Settings, if I scroll down here a bit, you'll notice here's my current pipeline, and I've got a few other options, okay? After offer accepted preparing contracts, we'll jump in here and we'll do merchant reviewing contracts. And we'll find merchant reviewing contracts. The next one we have here is contract signed final steps. So we'll go ahead and put in contract signed final steps, and we'll find contract signed final steps. The next one we have is funded. So we're going to choose funded. And then we're going to find funded. Okay, the next one, if you want it to be in your pipeline, is in collections. A pipeline is normally something you're working to get a successful deal done, right? So if you want in collections, in legal, lender decline, borrower decline in your pipeline, you can absolutely have them if you wish, but it's not totally necessary. It just kind of depends on your feeling. So we can come in here and put in collections, and we can find in collections. The next one is in legal, and then we can find in legal, and then we can do lender declined, and we can find lender declined. And then I need to save the settings one more time to get more options here. I'm going to click on Save Settings, and then down here at the bottom, I'm going to add one more called merchant declined. And we're going to scroll down to borrower decline or merchant decline and click on Save Settings. Okay, so that is your pipeline. That is the pipeline, and I'll show you what this means here in just a second when I do a live example. Okay, now after your pipeline, we have to do role and user access to those pipelines. Okay, so if you notice here, this is the pipeline you just got done creating. Now we have to grant access to certain roles to those pipelines. Okay, later on in the training session, you'll see how you can create roles within the admin tab, but essentially, which roles do you want to have access to each one of these pipelines? Okay, so if I click here, you can see I've got different roles here. So what I'm going to do for now is I'm just going to make the super admin role access to every single one of these pipelines. Okay, so we'll do super admin, we'll do super admin, we'll do super admin. And this will be the same for your account when you guys first get started. You may just want to grant access to the super admin role only in the beginning, and then as you bring on a sales role or you do an underwriting role or maybe a processor role, you can grant access to these pipelines, to those roles at a later time. Super admin, beautiful, and I'm going to click on Save Settings. And then I'm going to check one thing just real quick. I'm going to come into the Admin tab, and that is Super Admin. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now I'll come back into the Advances tab. I'll jump into Advanced Settings, and we're going to go ahead and keep going. So I've got my advanced statuses done. I've mapped my advanced statuses to my contact statuses. I've made some setting changes here on the right for advanced started and agreement out. We've created a nice looking pipeline. Okay, and then we've granted access to that pipeline to certain roles. Okay, so what this is going to look like now, we've done this, if I jump into the Advances tab, you guys will see here that we've got some numbers here, but we don't have the pipeline yet because we haven't finished the settings. Okay, so this pipeline is going to stack right down the middle once we finish these settings. Okay, so let's go to Advances. Let's jump into Advanced Settings. Okay, beautiful. Scroll down and let's keep going. Okay, now we're going to get into assignment types. Some of you may not ever use assignment types. What assignment types normally is it's a round-robin technology for underwriters for submitting files to lenders. So if you guys are a larger shop and you have several different users in a certain department and you want files to be round-robin to those users in that department, you can come in here and turn round-robin on. And then on when deal status changes to, you can use that status. And now when an advance changes to that particular status, that sales rep or that underwriter or whoever you've assigned that to, it's going to round robin fairly to those reps. Okay, so if you need that, you can use that at a later time. Okay, workflow. So we've already created a bit of a workflow in the Contacts tab. Right? We've created our custom stages and statuses in the Contacts tab, and now we've created some custom stages and statuses in the Advances tab. Now what we need to do is tell the system if your file is in a certain status, what are the next logical statuses that come next? Okay, so for example, if your file is in the status of in-document collection, what is the logical status or statuses that could potentially come next? And again, this is totally up to you. So I'm going to start with in-document collection. If the file's in document collection, since we did this in order, the next logical step it could go to is funder reviewing file. Once it's in funder reviewing file, it could go to negotiating with lender, or it could go to merchant reviewing file. So let's do this together here. So in document collection, the next logical step is funder reviewing file. So I'm going to come over here, click my mouse. I'm going to find funder reviewing file. Perfect. Once it's in funder reviewing file, where can it go to next? Well, it can either go to negotiating with funder, or just in case you ever skip that step, it could potentially go to merchant reviewing offer. Okay? If the file does go to negotiating with funder, okay, it's going to go to merchant reviewing offer. So we can find merchant reviewing offer. Okay, and now you've got merchant reviewing offer here as the next logical step. If we go to merchant reviewing offer, what's the next logical step? The next logical step is offer accepted, preparing contracts. So let's go to offer accepted, preparing contracts. Or this could go to potentially borrower declined, right? The borrower or the merchant could be looking at this offer and the borrower could decline it. Now, funder reviewing file, forgive me, I missed something here. Funder reviewing file could also go to funder declined, right? So we could go to lender declined. So you've got options here, okay? Once the file is in offer accepted preparing contracts, the next logical step is merchant reviewing contracts. So let's go find merchant reviewing contracts. There it is, okay? Once the merchant is in the status of merchant reviewing contracts, where can it go to next? Well, it could technically go to contract signed, final steps, but it could also go, once again, to borrower decline, okay? Once the borrower sees those contracts, they may not like those contracts and they can decline the advance or the loan, okay? Once the contract signed, final steps, the next one is going to be funded, so we'll go ahead and jump into funded. Once it's been funded, it's going to go to in repayment. So we'll go from funded and we'll go to in repayment. We're going to have to scroll up now because in repayment is up at the top. Once the file is in repayment, where could it go? Well, it could potentially go to paid in full. It could potentially go to defaulted, right? And then, you know, just to give yourself options, it could potentially go to some of these other ones, in collections or in legal. I know you can't really skip certain steps. However, what you can do is just give yourself options, okay? Once it's been paid in full, we're not going to do anything. You're going to create a new advance opportunity, okay? So you guys can have multiple advance opportunities for each contact in the system. Once it's been defaulted, where could it go? Well, it could go to in collections, or it could go to in legal, right? Okay, now let's scroll back down. Once it's in collections, it can go to in legal, or it could potentially go back into repayment, or it could go to paid in full, okay? And actually, I missed that up at the top here, same concept. Once it's been defaulted, it could go back to in repayment, or potentially it could go back to paid in full as well. Okay, so let's keep going down here at the bottom. Once it's in legal, the only real area it could go to is write-off. Now, potentially it could go back into repayment as well, right? Maybe they're doing a slow pay or some sort of negotiated pay, and they could potentially go back into repayment. Okay, once lender has declined it, you know, give yourself options here, guys. It can really go anywhere. Once the lender's declined, it could go to funder reviewing file. It could go back into negotiating with funder. It could potentially go back to merchant reviewing an offer. And it could potentially go back into merchant reviewing contracts. If a lender declines something and the broker pulls a really cool move and pulls that file out of decline, it can really go anywhere. Okay, so you can put options here. Once the borrower has declined it, same concept. It could potentially go anywhere, right? So it could go to funder reviewing file. It could go to negotiating with funder. It could go to merchant reviewing offer, so on and so forth. Okay, so you can put some options here. Now let's scroll back up to the top to make sure we didn't miss anything. We're not using pricing. We're not using underwriting. We're not using approved. Okay, in repayment looks good. Paid in full, no reason to go anywhere there because paid in full is the last status. We've got decline. We're not going to use that because we've already got borrower decline and lender decline. We're not going to use returned. We're not going to use started. And if you write off a file, there's really no other status you can change it to after that. I mean, if you've written a file off your books, it's not going anywhere, so there's nothing to have here. Okay? So this looks good. You can come in here and change anytime you want. Let's go ahead and click on Save Settings. Okay, perfect. If I click on the Advances tab, we'll see what kind of changes have been made, and we'll click back into Advanced Settings. Let's go ahead and scroll down. Okay, so now what we have here is we've got something called rules. We have a feature in our system on locking the pricer. So the pricer is where you put your advance amount, 135 factor rate, 6-month term, ACH daily, here's the payback amount, so on and so forth. What status do you want to lock the pricing at? A lot of people choose offer accepted preparing contracts because once the offer has been accepted, there's no reason to now change that price. Okay, so it's totally up to you. And then the funded completed status we always make in repayment. So when you change the file to the status of in repayment, it's going to trigger that file to end up in the enrollments tab. You've now enrolled that client into a new lending program. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and click on Save Settings. Beautiful. Okay, let's scroll down and let's keep going here. We've got our nice settings here. It looks really good. Let's keep going. And actually, I'm going to look at one thing here. We're going to add Centrex Software to every single one of these real quick, so I can show you guys how this works in real time. So you guys can see here, you can share with roles or you can share with individual users in the software as well, this particular pipeline. Okay, so we're going to choose Centrex Software for each one of these pipelines. One more. And then we're going to go ahead and click on Save Settings. Okay, beautiful. If I click on the Advances tab now, you guys will now be able to see this pipeline. Okay, so like I said before, you've got in-document collection, funder reviewing file, negotiating with funder, merchant reviewing offer. This is your pipeline. If I click on one of these, you'll see here, it'll display all the data below. Okay, so you can see here, I don't really have a lot of data in each one of these. I've only got all my data in all. So if I click on negotiating with funder, I don't really have any files in negotiating with funder, but I click on all my files are here, so on and so forth. Okay, beautiful. Let's go back into advanced settings. Let's scroll down and let's finish out our settings here. We'll scroll down. Okay, so we've got rules, lock pricing, permissions, use contact permissions. You guys can say yes or no for contact permissions. That means whoever's got permissions to view the contacts has the permission to view the advances. Okay, so you can say yes or no. Submission settings. For those of you who are brokers, you have an option here to choose an email address for all your submissions. Okay, so no matter who's logged into the software, if you put an email address in here and then click on Save Settings, no matter who's logged in submitting files to lenders, the email address going to the lender is going to be submissions@centrexsoftware.com or submission@yourcompanydomainname.com or whatever email address you want to put here. Okay, if I delete this and I leave nothing and I click on Save Settings, whoever's logged into the software doing the submission is going to come from that logged in user, the email address for that logged in user. Okay, and then of course you can choose users here as well. Okay, payment settings. For those of you who are funders and you're doing servicing through our platform, you've got payment settings. So include pending transactions in balance, yes or no. Auto draft and NSF fee, yes. Choose your auto draft amount, days after payment, let's say 1 day, and then you can create a subtype here. And then down here, you guys have the ability to pay out your syndicates. So syndicate payments on, subtype, what kind of subtype do you want, and then do you want it to auto clear, yes or no? And then you've got some settings here as well. Down here below, you've got document mapping. So in your Docs tab, okay, what documents are your applications? So your application is your application, and which one is your agreement? So those of you who have both a contract and an agreement, you can choose here. And then for data mapping, you've got your application form and your credit score field. So your application form is essentially your intake form in the software. And then your credit score field, every single one of you is going to have a credit score field. You can choose your credit score field. And then last but not least, you've got automatic conditions. So what are the automatic conditions you know that you need to have for each file in the system? So documents, I know I need to have an application. I know I need to have a clear search. I know I need to have, let's say, a contract or an agreement. And then for tasks, what tasks do you want to create automatically in the system for every single advance? Okay, and then you can click on Save Settings. Okay, so we've effectively now created all of our advanced settings in the software. So let's go ahead and jump into a contact and see what this looks like. If I come to advances first and foremost, you can see we now have this nice looking pipeline here. And you can drill into each one of these and you can see all your files. But let's go ahead and jump into the contacts tab. And let's jump into Al's Laundry Service here. This is Al's Laundry Service. We're going to go ahead and jump into the advances section. And like I've expressed to you before, you're not really going to create an advance opportunity until you have a signed application. Let's assume you've got a signed application. Let's click on New Advance. Okay, you'll notice here the status of this advance is in document collection. Okay, so I can come in here and I can change different names out. The funder, Can Capital, who's the closer? The closer is a syndicate partner, so on and so forth. I can create my pricer, so the advance type, this is a new advance. It's an ACH draft. Let's say it's $20,000. Repayment period is 90. We're going to go ahead and do days, and the factor rate is a 135. And you can see here it automatically calculates the daily payment. We'll go ahead and click on Save File. Now, if I want to change the status of this advance, over here where it says In Document Collection, I can now click on In Document Collection, and I can change it to Funder Reviewing File, and I can say, okay, watch what happens. The status of the advance is now Funder Reviewing File. The status of the contact is Opportunity Funder Reviewing File. If I change this again, let's say to Negotiating with Funder, and click on OK, same concept. The status of the advance is Negotiating with Funder, and the status of the contact is Opportunity Negotiating with Funder. Now, it's important to understand this is a one-way relationship. Okay, if I click into Al's Laundry Service here, and I come into the client dashboard, and I change the status right here, it will not change the advance status with it. Okay, this is the contact status. It only changes both when you change the advance status. Okay, so anytime you want to work an advance, come into Al's Laundry Service, come into your client, come into the advances section here, okay, and you can come into this latest advance, and I can edit this advance opportunity, and I can change the status here. So if I click on Negotiating with Funder, I can choose Merchant Reviewing Offer, I can say OK, and same concept. The status of the advance is now Merchant Reviewing Offer, and the status of the contact is Opportunity Merchant Reviewing Offer. Okay, so now if I click on the Advances tab and I go to Merchant Reviewing Offer, you should be able to see one file here. And yes, we have the number 1. So if I click on this and I scroll down, here is Al's Laundry Service. Here's this account. I can always click on the green arrow on the far right, and it takes me right back into the advance opportunity for this particular client. Okay, guys, so a little bit confusing in the beginning, but like I said, once you build out all your advanced statuses and your advanced settings are complete, you'll be able to successfully push a file through the system. Okay, so in training 1, we talked about the workflow. In this video, we talked a little bit about your advanced settings and your advanced statuses and how you can map those together and create pipelines and so on and so forth. We look forward to seeing you on training 3. We wish you the best of luck.